Welcome to an InOrbit Deep Dive podcast. The following AI-generated podcast explores InOrbit, the industry's leading AI-powered cloud-based data platform for effectively managing and orchestrating growing robot fleets. InOrbit makes robots from different vendors, smart infrastructure, and existing control or management systems work together. With InOrbit, you get comprehensive observability, incident review, and data analytics. To learn more about InOrbit and the power of robot operations, visit us online at inorbit.ai. Now on to the podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into the world of RobOps.
RobOps?
Yeah, RobOps, managing robots at scale.
Yeah.
We've talked about how robots are showing up everywhere these days.
They certainly are.
But as their numbers grow, we need smarter ways to manage them, right?
Absolutely.
That's where RobOps comes in. We've got two great articles from InOrbit to guide our deep dive today. They're really a leader in this space.
Oh, InOrbit's perspective is fascinating. They don't treat this as just a tech problem, you know? They bring in the human element with what they call people ops.
People ops.
Yeah, recognizing that people are at the heart of any successful robotic system.
It's true. We often get so focused on the robots themselves, the hardware, the software,
Right.
but we forget about the people who design, deploy, manage it all.
Exactly. And InOrbit highlights these three key personas.
Okay.
Engineers, operations teams, and executives. Each has their own needs in the RobOps world.
Makes sense. So InOrbit is saying everyone needs to be on the same page for this to work.
Well, they put a big emphasis on the role of engineers.
Engineers.
Yeah, they see engineers as the backbone of any RobOps system. They're the ones building, maintaining, troubleshooting these complex deployments.
Right. Keep those engineers happy.
Exactly. Give them the right tools, the right support, and the whole system benefits.
I like that. Happy engineer, happy robot. And speaking of tools, InOrbit offers a pretty impressive suite of them from what I saw.
Oh yeah, they've got SDKs, APIs, embeds, cloud services, even a web UI.
Wow, covering all the bases there.
It seems like they recognize that every company is going to have different needs, different workflows.
Makes sense. Flexibility is key.
They even have this framework for thinking about the stages of robot development and deployment.
Oh, tell me about that.
It's what they call the 4Ds and 4Os.
4Ds and 4Os.
Catchy, right.
I like it. Break it down for me.
All right, so on the development side, we have design, develop, deploy, and diagnose.
Okay, those seem pretty straightforward. Covers the whole life cycle of creating a robot system, right?
Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. They pair those with the operational side. Observe, operate, orchestrate, and optimize.
Okay, so those are the 4 O's.
Right. And they highlight the continuous monitoring and refinement that's essential for good RobOps.
So it's not a one-and-done deal. You're constantly gathering data, analyzing performance, making tweaks to keep things running smoothly.
You got it. It's this constant feedback loop between the D's and the O's, a core principle of RobOps, I'd say.
I'm seeing a theme here. Continuous improvement, always adapting. Makes sense in a field as dynamic as robotics.
Absolutely. And this brings us to another interesting aspect of InOrbit, their commitment to open source software and standards.
Open source. Now, why is that so important in the world of RobOps?
Well, think about it. If every robotics company builds its own proprietary systems, its own software,
Yeah.
you end up with a fragmented landscape. Robots from different manufacturers can't talk to each other, can't interact effectively.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster, especially as robots become more integrated into our lives, our workplaces.
Exactly. We need them to play nicely together.
Right. We need that interoperability.
And that's where open source comes in. By promoting open standards, collaborative development,
Okay.
companies like InOrbit are trying to make sure robots can seamlessly integrate, regardless of where they came from.
Like a universal language for robots. That's a powerful idea.
It is. Allows them to share data, coordinate actions, learn from each other, unlocks the full potential of robotics, I think.
I see that. And InOrbit's focus on people ops suggests they're thinking about this interoperability on the human side, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine engineers from different companies collaborating easily, using common tools, solving problems together.
Breaking down those silos between companies. A more unified approach to robotics development.
And that leads us to the Robot Operations Group, or ROG.
Ah, yes, ROG, a nonprofit that InOrbit actively supports.
They bring together experts, enthusiasts, users, everyone across the robotics landscape.
To tackle challenges, share best practices, really accelerate the adoption of robotics in a positive way.
This is where that people-first approach really shines through.
It does.
They're not just building tech, they're building a community, fostering collaboration.
Trying to make robotics accessible and beneficial for everyone.
I like that.
And that focus on user experience is everywhere, from their platform design to how they take customer feedback.
They're listening to the people actually using the robots, which makes a lot of sense.
They get it. RobOps isn't just about the robots. It's about the people using them effectively. It's amazing how InOrbit connects this big picture view of the industry with the needs of the people actually doing the work,
Right, because it's easy to get lost in the talk of open source and standards, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's about the individuals interacting with these robots day in and day out. How does InOrbit's people-first approach actually play out in practice?
Well, they understand that different users have different needs. An engineer debugging a complex problem needs different tools than, say, an operations manager trying to keep a whole fleet of robots running smoothly across a warehouse.
Yeah. So it's not just one platform, one size fits all.
No, it's about creating a whole ecosystem of tools, interfaces that can be adapted to different roles.
I see. So flexibility is key here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's all about the details. If the tools are clunky, hard to use, people get frustrated, they make mistakes,
Right.
and that slows down the whole adoption of RobOps practices.
It's got to be user-friendly, even if it's powerful under the hood.
Exactly. InOrbit seems to get that balance right.
And they're also big on continuous learning improvement, right?
Oh, yeah. They actively seek feedback from users incorporated into their development process.
They're always evolving, which is important in such a fast-moving field.
Very much so. They're not afraid to say, we don't have all the answers, let's figure this out together.
It's a refreshing approach, and their involvement with ROG, that community we talked about,
Right.
shows they're really committed to pushing the whole field forward.
It's about sharing knowledge, collaborating, raising the bar for everyone.
A rising tide lifts all boats, as they say. Now let's circle back to those 4Ds and 4Os.
Right.
Design, develop, deploy, diagnose. That's the development side.
Right.
It's like a roadmap for taking a robot from idea to reality. But the magic of RobOps is how it connects that to the operational side. Observe, operate, orchestrate, optimize.
And that connection is key.
Yeah.
Because when you observe how robots are performing in the real world, you gather data that feeds back into the development process, driving those improvements we talked about.
It's a living system, always adapting. But that means things can get pretty complex, right?
Absolutely. You need to understand both the technology and the human factors involved.
We can't just rely on algorithms and automation.
We need human intelligence to interpret the data, spot patterns, make good decisions.
It's not about robots replacing humans. It's about humans and robots working together, each doing what they do best.
That's the idea. Robots with their precision, speed, tireless work, and humans with our creativity, problem-solving skills.
Makes sense. And as robots get more sophisticated, more integrated into our world, that partnership will only become more important. InOrbit's doing some really interesting work here, paving the way for this collaborative future.
I think so too. Building platforms, fostering communities that empower both humans and robots.
It makes you wonder where all this could lead. We started talking about the technical side of RobOps, but it feels like we've uncovered something much bigger.
I think you're right.
It raises questions about the future of work, how humans and technology interact, how we manage complex systems in general.
Big questions, for sure.
We talked about open source and interoperability in robotics. But could those same principles be applied to other complex systems? Think about managing smart cities, coordinating global supply chains.
That's interesting. What if we brought a RobOps mindset to healthcare systems, for instance?
Those are all systems with countless moving parts constantly changing.
And they require constant monitoring, analysis, adjustments, just like robots.
It's like graduating from RobOps to systems ops.
The systems ops.
Yeah, applying those core principles, observability, orchestration, optimization to any complex system we encounter.
As our world gets more interconnected, more complex,
it's only going to get more challenging.
That kind of systems thinking could be invaluable.
InOrbit might have started with robots, but their vision seems to go way beyond that.
I agree.
They're not just managing machines, they're exploring a whole new way to manage complexity itself.
It's a subtle shift, but a profound one.
And it all comes back to that people-first philosophy. Understanding that technology is only as good as the people using it.
It's about empowering individuals, fostering collaboration.
Creating a future where technology serves humanity.
Not the other way around.
It's a lot to think about. So for someone wanting to learn more about this whole RobOps thing,
Mm.
where would they even start?
Well, InOrbit's website's a great place. Tons of info about their platform. Case studies of how companies are using RobOps, even some articles that explore those bigger ideas we've been talking about.
And what about getting involved in the community, actually connecting with people in this space?
Ah, yes. Well, there's ROG, the Robot Operations Group.
Right, ROG, we've mentioned them a few times.
They're kind of a central hub for the RobOps community.
Okay.
They do conferences, workshops, publish research, all sorts of things.
Sounds like a great way to stay up to date.
It is, and it's a place to contribute, too. Share your own ideas.
So whether you're an engineer, a student, just someone curious about robotics,
Yeah.
there's a place for you in this community.
Absolutely. And that's what's so exciting about RobOps,
Yeah.
It's still young, it's evolving fast. There's so much room for people to get involved, make a difference.
It's been a fascinating journey, really, exploring this world of RobOps.
It has.
We started with the technical stuff, but we ended up in some pretty deep philosophical territory.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It is. InOrbit's doing some really important work here. Their commitment to open source, community, that people first approach.
Right.
It suggests they see this as more than just technology. It's almost a movement.
Yeah, I like that. A movement.
A new way of thinking that could change how we approach complexity in all aspects of our lives.
And as our world keeps getting more complex, that's something we desperately need, I think.
Absolutely. A huge thank you to InOrbit for such thought-provoking material.
Yeah, they're real pioneers.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, keep diving deep.
Who knows, maybe you'll be the one to take these ideas and solve some of the world's biggest challenges.
Until next time, keep those robots running smoothly.
And keep those humans happy, too.
That's the key.
We hope you enjoyed this InOrbit podcast. Visit us online at inorbit.ai to learn how we make robots work. And contact us anytime at team@inorbit.ai. This AI-generated podcast was created using Google's Notebook LM. Thanks for listening.